recognize Ms. Moore for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for spending all this time with the Ways and Means Committee. I want to associate myself with comments that were made earlier by our chairman, Mr. Smith, that AGOA is very important to us. We want you to work with us in renewing it. We should. This is something that is a bipartisan ask, and I just want to associate myself with that. I also want to say that I'm from Wisconsin, sir, and even though I represent Milwaukee and the surrounding urban areas, I am feeling the impacts in lots of conversations about our farmers, our soybean farmers who have seen their markets destroyed with USAID being shut down and the markets in China closing down. And I understand that we're probably going to be looking at some trade adjustment assistance for them, for farmers. But farmers don't want these welfare checks. It's not well and it's not fair. They want their markets back. And I think this gives, I want you to think about this, I think it gives China a lot of leverage over us. I'm really concerned. You said here today that you were not a free trade person. And I don't know that I am either, but I'm a fair trade person, which I think is where all of us ought to be. And it seems to me that the president, and you support him as the trade representative, want to impose these tariffs with the hope that it's going to bring manufacturing jobs back. Number one, I haven't seen any industrial policy from the White House that would support that. All I see is trade, these tariffs, and threats. I have absolutely no idea where you're getting the numbers from, because factories are continuing to shed workers. We lost 98,000 manufacturing jobs just during the first year of the president's second term. So the question I have are, with this strategy, we're going to see a devaluation of the dollar, which of course will continue to raise prices for Americans, to deindustrialize. Are you deliberately trying to devalue the dollar?
No, that's an interesting question.
But that's what's going to happen.
Well, I think, listen, first of all, the value of the dollar, whether it's weak or strong, it's relative to other currencies in other countries. So there are also, if you export overseas and the dollar is lower relative to that, you can actually export more effectively, and we're exporting more than we've exported in American history. On the trade policy issue, Congresswoman, I agree with you on fair trade and focusing on manufacturing. On January 20th, we put out a trade policy that was focused on manufacturing, and I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you might agree with me that some of our trade policies in the past actually led to offshoring to Mexico or China or places like that. And so if there was a bad trade policy that could lead to offshoring, good trade policy can lead to onshoring.
Well, I appreciate your sentiments, but like I said, there's no industrial policy to enable manufacturers to stand up where we've been in the 70s or 80s. You spoke a little bit about, we talked about depreciating the dollar, and you constantly talk about our trade deficit account, but you talked about our exporting to Europe. Don't we run a surplus in the capital and financial accounts? The IMF has put together a balance of payments, and so it's kind of disingenuous to just call this a trade deficit when you consider the balance of payments. Am I wrong about that?
I think you are. I think that you can find some economists from Cato, super libertarians, who want to go with you on that. I'm not in that camp. I'm more concerned in looking at the trade deficit in goods, where we're at $1.2 trillion in the hole following Biden years. I'm looking at our net investment position, where foreign countries have higher claims on U.S. assets than Americans have on claim on foreign assets. That's a dangerous position to be in. So there are sub-accounts you can look at. I'm happy to have more conversation with you on this. I think we're probably more aligned.
Because I went with the chairman to Madagascar, and we have an awful trade deficit with Madagascar. But I look around at all those poor people, and I think, well, duh, you know, they sell us vanilla, but we have a trade deficit. And so we would have a broader conversation. I'd appreciate that, because I think that this trade policy of this administration is going to continue to raise prices for Americans. We're sowing into a dream of reindustrializing, and I fear that it's just going to put us in a situation where we're not able to pay workers more, where we're hoping and praying for an event that may not occur. But I appreciate your patience and your indulgence. Thank you, Mr. Smucker. I yield back.